All right, I'd like to bring this meeting of the Pacific Grove Unified School District to order. It is September 21, 5:30 p.m. And before we proceed, I'd like to read our land acknowledgement. As we begin this meeting, it is important to pay respect to and acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Castanoan, and Esselen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. Can we get a roll call, please?
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Present.
Dr. Hazen,
Here.
Trustee Otmar,
Here.
Interim Superintendent Jordan.
Present.
Noting President Swanson and Clerk McNary are absent at the moment.
All right, very good. We do have a quorum. Moving on through the agenda, we will soon be recessing for closed session or moving into closed session. We have two items under closed session, first being conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Governance Code 54956.9. Second item, public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. That is Government Code 54957.
One quick interruption. Sorry, do we need to adopt the agenda first?
Yes, sorry.
Please, no apologies needed.
Skipped right over that. We do need to adopt the agenda. Are there any questions relating to the agenda?
We have a couple of changes to the agenda. To note, consent item B, personnel report, there was a correction to Mr. Nordstrom's position. Mr. Nordstrom's position, he's been appointed as the girls soccer coach for PG High School. We had a revision to the personnel report, and that has been provided to the board in the board packet. It's also been posted online, which is available to the public. Consent item F under donations, we had a correction to the donation, which was made to Forest Grove, but reflected on the report under the middle school. And again, all items have been updated in your blue folders, and revisions have been posted to the district website for public consumption. And those are the only changes.
Okay. Board, any questions relating to those revisions or changes or updates?
No.
Not at all. Thank you.
Okay, and is there any public comment relating to the agenda? No and no. Okay, so can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll happily make a motion to adopt the agenda as updated by Superintendent Jordan, or is it Acting Attendant Jordan?
All right, and I will second that. And do we need roll call or majority vote? Majority vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the agenda has been adopted. So going back to closed session, I already read through the two items. I'm not going to repeat them. Is there any public comment on closed session topics? Okay, and anything the board wants to add? All right, let's adjourn to closed session.
Welcome to PGUSD School District Board of Education regular meeting, Thursday, September 21st, 2023. As we begin this meeting, it's important to pay respect to and acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Castanoan, and Esselen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. And real quick point of order, Mr. Jorn, I'm assuming you all did roll call. Do you want me to do that again now that there's different trustees here?
Yeah, we don't need to redo roll call. We just report out when the other two trustees joined in closed session and at what time.
Okay. Do we know that time? Let me check my phone.
I had it noted as 6:03.
Okay, great. Trustees McNary and Carolyn Swanson arrived to the board meeting at 6:03. I'm assuming the adoption of the agenda took place. Okay, thank you so much. All right, since we've now reconvened in open session, I'm reporting out action taken in closed session, excuse me. Number 1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, subdivision D1, one matter, OAH case number 2023080556. And the report out language specific to this item is that the governing board voted 3-0, 3 in favor. So it's trustees Otmar, trustees Hazen, trustees Brian Swanson in favor to approve a written settlement agreement for resolution of OAH case number 2023-08-0556. The resolution includes educational services, district assessments, and fees in exchange for a waiver and release of all educational claims to date and prospectively against the district and dismissal of the case with prejudice. Item number 2, public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. Information was given and received. No direction was given. With that, can we get the Pledge of Allegiance from Brian Swanson, please?
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, trustee Brian Swanson. Okay, next up is written communications. We don't have a ton. These are as of September 21st today, as of about 10 a.m. I got an email related to curriculum, an email related to PGUSD Narcan distribution, an email related to the Yale Educator Award, email related to curriculum review committee, email related to instructional materials, and an email that was a kudos to the district office staff, really positive email. And Mandy, if you're listening, I will give you this list at the end of the meeting. Okay, with that, board member comments. I do have a board member comment tonight. I wrote it out because I didn't want to get lost in my comments, so this is my comment tonight. In response to this evening's press conference led by the NAACP, I wanted to share how I feel as a parent and as a member of this community. My statement does not reflect the board as a whole or the district. Racism is not an abstract concept. It is a public crisis, and it exists in our community and schools. It is only by recognizing racism that we can make meaningful progress towards a more inclusive and equitable learning environment and community. In my short 3 years on the board, this is not the first time I find myself in the position of trying to find the words to express the absolute heartache I feel for the pain that racism has caused our families. One key concern that I share with many members of our community is the absence of a reporting system for families who have experienced or witnessed racist incidents within our schools. Families should have a safe and confidential platform to report such incidents, and their concerns should be treated with the utmost seriousness. Additionally, we must create a clear and effective protocol for addressing racist incidents when they are witnessed by and/or involve staff members. This protocol should ensure staff members know the steps to take and have the support needed to help all involved, including themselves, if applicable, to fully resolve problems. I request both the reporting system and the protocol for addressing racist incidents when they occur be established immediately, and I will bring it up at the end of the meeting during our future agenda item. I do look forward to seeing swift and continuing positive changes in our district. And that concludes my board comments tonight. With that, I'll go to Clerk McNary.
Can I ask just one quick question? Were we finishing communications first, or do we want to continue with board comments?
Sure, if you have written communication,
I had
please.
2 to add. We are still reporting out on those. I got an email related to chronic absenteeism in California more broadly, and an email from a parent related to school lunches.
Thank you. Any other written communications we want to add?
I have one. I received an email related to cultural proficiency in the district and the good work that our district is doing around that.
Thank you. Clerk McNary, any written communications we missed?
No, thanks.
Trustee Brian Swanson?
And nothing additional.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move to Clerk McNary if she has any public comment.
Board comment. Thank you, President Swanson. I can just start by saying that I agree with you. After attending the press conference led by the NAACP, as a member of the community, as a parent, this feels like a time where we can't be silent. We have to speak up. Because when it comes to racism, being silent is complicity, excuse my language. I guess, I think of the students and the families and the community members who have suffered racial trauma in our district. And I feel like we have to acknowledge it, and we have to acknowledge that trauma and their pain, and that racism is a systemic problem in our community. It's a systemic problem in our society and in our schools. And if we aren't willing to start talking about it within this district and having frank and open dialogue, we're not going to get anywhere. And not talking about race or racial trauma really is a privilege that not all of us have. For me, I'm appreciative of the cultural proficiency work that's being done in our district. I think it's really important, but I also think it's different than addressing head-on racism within our schools. So, our top job as electeds is to be, our top priority is the safety of our kids at school and the families we serve, and we're accountable to all of them. So my request was similar tonight to Trustee Swanson or President Swanson in creating a system for reporting racially motivated incidents, so that families can have access and a place to express their concerns, and establishment of a process and protocol for how we will respond to race-based and hate-based incidents in our schools before, during, and after the incident. So I think we are on the right path. I think we've got a lot of work to do. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Otmar, any board comments?
Nothing from me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brian Swanson, any board comments?
Just briefly, I think I touched on it last meeting, but I don't think we actually had comments at the last meeting. But I had a visit at the community high school, and I wanted to thank everybody that was there, from the staff down to the students. It was such an amazing experience. We took about a half an hour just to do some social emotional learning, sitting around in a circle and just sharing where we were that day. I wish I could go there every week, because then I wouldn't have to find a new therapist because she moved. And but it was just so wonderful. And then going into just a discussion about what it's like to be on the board, and what it's like to work in the music industry, and talk about different paths, from once you get out of school and what you do or what you study. So it was just really, really fantastic. And it really carried me through like an entire week. So I wanted to thank them for allowing me to sit in for those couple of hours. It flew by, and I really want to go back and do that again. Not every week. I know I can't do that, but it would be nice.
Thank you, Trustee Brian. Trustee Hazen, anything?
No, nothing from me at this time. Thank you for checking.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go to our interim superintendent report.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to individuals desiring to address the board. Public comment on any item of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will also take public comment on each specific action item prior to board action on each item. Any individual wishing to comment on a specific item on the current agenda are kindly asked to wait until that item is being discussed. The board will allow a reasonable amount of time for public comment on each agenda item, not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker and no more than 20 minutes per agenda item, pursuant to Board Policy 9323. Speakers will be called sequentially until there is no speaker coming forward on the agenda item, or the amount of time allocated for the agenda item has elapsed, whichever comes first. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. The board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on a future agenda. And I will say, this disclaimer applies to public comment that goes throughout the entire meeting. So now we're on to PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. If there's anyone online, please raise your digital hand. And if you're here in person, please make your way up to the podium. We would love to hear from you. Oh.
Microphone.
Trying again, Sally Richmond, Pacific Grove High School. Since I'm here, I thought I would let everyone know that the Breaker Bots are teaming up with the mock trial team for a huge yard sale on Saturday, 9 to 2 behind the high school. We have a flute, we have several kayaks, we have a drone, we have a telescope, so many exciting things. The money that we raise will help support our competition season. We are currently training our new students and will be kicking off the season in January. In the meantime, we are working with the middle school teams with their FLL teams down at the middle school. So thank you.
Thank you. And FLL is Ms. Richmond?
Yes, first Lego League. So we build things with metal and gears and motors, and they're working with Legos.
Very
Yes.
neat.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're just going to alternate. If anyone is online who's a staff member, Mr. Gibbs, I see your hand is up, but I am pretty certain you're not, okay, you're not a staff member. So we will get to you in just a moment when we go to community members, but Principal Roach, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Sean Roach, proud principal of Pacific Grove Middle School. First of all, seems like a long time ago, but weeks go very fast at the middle school. But the PGMS Wellness Fair was a wonderful event. We had 18 community organizations connecting with our PGMS families, and the feedback was really, really wonderful. Probably the most important thing is we were able to survey many folks, and we're going to use that survey information to guide future offerings and connections with our families. So it was really a wonderful opportunity. Secondly, tomorrow, our 7th grade students will be attending the Pebble Beach Authors and Ideas Festival. The event has a number of speakers and entrepreneurs and motivational speakers to really kind of inspire our kids in learning. We look forward to reporting that out when we get back. I will be personally attending and really looking forward to the event. Thank you very much.
Mr. Roach, thank you. And I was able to make it to your wellness fair and it was exquisite. Thank you so much for hosting it. And for, was it Zoe Roach? And there was another counselor who also helped put it. Sonda Fruden. You could tell that there was so much love and detail put in. So thank you for that. It was a great Saturday. Okay, any PGUSD staff members online? I don't see any raising their hand. Hello, please go ahead.
Hello, Board, Christina Renteria, kindergarten teacher. I just wanted to share my frustration in the sense of the new fingerprint policy that's been put in place without communication to us. We used to be able to allow at least one visitor, one time a year, supervised. And I find that that has been slowly disappearing. And I just want to share that it's been really frustrating because even individuals that are working in a food truck after school hours have to be fingerprinted. And from what I understand, and a recent judge wanted to come on, and I know there's been changes and they worked with it and made some things work out, but you really are limiting a lot of community learning opportunities for our students. And I know it's just been so frustrating to hit roadblock after roadblock when a policy has been changed recently, and then it wasn't necessarily shared formally with us. And I just, I'm just really sad the learning opportunities that's happening, that's now being missed out for our kiddos. And I hope you come to some sort of leeway or understanding or something that where let's look at what's best for the students first, not what's, and I agree with safety issues. I'm not trying to disregard safety issues, but there has to be a balance because we're still a community, we're still a school, it's still a public place. And I think maybe giving the site admin, more say and understanding, and give them more freedom to be able to make those decisions would be best. So thank you.
We really appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you so much. That took a lot of, thank you. Thank you so much. And Mr. Jordan, do you mind reaching out and chatting with Mr. Henry about this? Okay, thank you so much. Let's see. I don't see anyone else with their hand up online who's a staff member. So please go ahead, Director Ogerman.
Good evening, school board members. Buck Rogeman, Director of Curriculum and Special Projects. And seeing Sally speak, I just wanted to give a little bit of credit to Sandra Vrajec and Heather Peterson, who have done an outstanding job of helping build our robotics program from the elementary school to the middle school to the high school. The amount of work that they've put in order to make this program go would be a lot for someone who was getting paid to do the work. But it's all been done on a volunteer basis. And I also have to give a lot of credit to Principal Roach, who took the maker space at the middle school and carved out a nice section of that for the elementary schools to both come and use the same facility at the same time. We talk about trying to build, district-wide programs, and this is an excellent example of using our parent volunteers to help make that happen. I can't wait to go see one of those Thursday sessions where we have the two schools joining together. Not only that, but we're going to have two Lego teams from the middle school as well this year for the first time. So we're trying to build the robotics program, elementary, middle, and high school. And I think we're on a great start to that. And it's a great example of, the district working with parent volunteers to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ogerman. It's really exciting. Thank you so much. Okay, Louis, do you see any staff members with their hand up? I don't. Okay, thank you so much. Next up is community members who would like to comment on non-agenda items. And I know that Mr. Gibbs has his hand up. So if you don't mind unmuting and setting the 3-minute timer.
Thank you, President Swanson and the board. This is Mike Gibbs. I'm a resident of Pacific Grove, a grandfather of 3, and very involved for the last 40 years in schools and school districts. My thought tonight is simply that, as you all know better than I do, the last 3 to 4 years has been very difficult for kids across the country. Parents have moved to other options, homeschooling, and absenteeism is chronic in many districts. One of our granddaughters goes to Oakland Inner City School, and in any one day, 30 to 40% of the kids don't show up. So there's some real issues there, problems in the the ability of parents to have a trust in public schools. And the reason I say that is everybody knows that PGUSD is looking for a superintendent. And the way I see this, it is maybe the most important hiring decision in Pacific Grove in the last 25 or 30 years, more than a city kids that we're talking about here. And I think that any superintendent that you bring in, and I'm sure there will be many qualified, but what I think parents are looking for at this point is a new direction, or maybe some kind of new way for their kids to learn. And you all know Sal Khan, and my wife and I know Sal Khan and his flipped classroom model. He's introduced a new AI learning tool, which is really neat and available to public schools. Project-based learning is very important, team-based learning, just-in-time learning. Online programs like Udacity and Coursera are out there, and kids are using these. They're supplementing their middle school and high school education with these online tools. I would expect a superintendent to be very clear about how important these tools are to the kids. The thing is that the parents have choices, and they're taking them. You may have heard there's a group out there called Acton Schools. They've been around for about 12 years. They now they're sort of mini schools. They have 270 schools across the country, and they are growing so fast they can't even fill the need. So just to conclude, I think we must have a superintendent with experience, stamina, and courage to lead the way forward with an innovative, practical, and meaningful strategies to continue to attract parents to these great Pacific Grove schools. Don't give them a chance to go someplace else. Focus on academics and rigor in the school system. I know there's a lot of issues. We heard about those earlier tonight that the school system is facing. But this superintendent hire is going to be uber important for the schools and for the city for now and for the next 30 years. So please put a lot of attention into this. I know that you will, and
Thank you,
people
Mr.
are looking forward to a great decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. If there's any other community members here in person or online who'd like to raise their digital hand, please do so. This is the time of the meeting for public comment from community members on non-agenda items. We'll just give a couple moments. Oh, it looks like we do have one digital hand online. Mr. Chris Swires. Lewis will unmute you in just a moment. Please go ahead, Mr. Swires. We cannot hear you. One moment. Mr. Swires, it shows on my screen that you're unmuted and now muted again. So I think Lewis will try to unmute you one more time. Mr. Swires, are you there? I'm so sorry. Okay, Mr. Swires, we have another digital hand that just went up from Miss Lucy Hazen. So I'm gonna move to her, and then maybe by that time you'll have relogged in or something like that. So yes, thank you for having your hand up. Go ahead, Lucy Hazen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for your time. I just wanted to take a moment to second the opinion shared with you all by Ms. Renteria regarding the additional layers of our understandably, well-intentioned safety regulatory procedures, shall we say, for visitors on campuses. I just want to reiterate, as a former PTA president at Robert Down and current active member, we struggle to get enough people to help us with things. So I'd like you to consider other ways to maybe lower that barrier a bit. That's all. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Lucy Hazen, for your comment. Mr. Swires, looks like you're back, and hopefully the unmuting works.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
Super. Thank you for the few minutes. I just wanted to ask, as you know, I'm new to the area, so kind of getting my feet wet in California. I was wondering if is there a process to have a little more transparency with what the chosen curriculum is? So with the book that I did read that had the 70 curse words and 11 F words in it, rather than me having to dig through and find out that a book is in the curriculum like that, I was wondering if there's a way before, when it is selected and the parent actually looks at the syllabus, if my son is going to watch something on TV, or anybody watches something on TV, you automatically see for every show in the upper left-hand corner, it'll say TV mature, TV R. If you go to the movies, a movie rated R is 2 F words. So that's where I'm kind of wondering, is there a way, other than the parent being surprised, like I was, to have to go in and read a book that we already know that a book being taught has language like that or something, so we can, rather than being a larger disagreement than it needs to be, if there's a way we can kind of be preventative and work together prior to it coming to that point. I don't know if you kind of get where I'm coming from, but anyways, that's what I would look forward to, is so I don't have to automatically dig into every subject my son has to see what book is being, has been approved 3 years ago that I don't know about. If something like that could be done. And I'd like to say I'm not looking for book bans or anything like that. I am more looking at knowing what is mandated curriculum versus what I approve of him to check out and stuff like that. So anyways, that's all that I'd ask for.
Thank you so much, Mr. Swires. Mr. Jordan, would you be okay reaching out to Mr. Swires and following up on his question?
Absolutely.
And was his question clear to you?
It was.
It was. Okay. Thank you so much for participating, Mr. Swires. I don't see anyone with their digital hand up, and I don't see any member of the public making their way up to the podium. So at this time, I'm going to close public comment. Thank you all so much. Moving on now to recognition, the board will actually recognize tonight teacher Sally Richmond for receiving the 2023 Yale Educator Award, which is a really big deal. And Mr. Principal, Mr. Alito Garcia is going to share a few words.
Come on up here, Sally. All right. So what we do as educators is personal. It's our job day in and day out to help our students achieve their goals once they graduate from high school. And nobody epitomizes that more than Sally Richmond. I want to paint a little picture for you. So you're a 2023 graduate from PG High, and you've been accepted to Yale University. So here you're going to Yale. You're in a new state. You're in a new coast. And you see this opportunity to recognize one of your former teachers. You have all this going on in your life, this brand new experience, yet you take a break from that to make sure that you have an opportunity to recognize somebody who has such a positive impact on your life. And so William Cohen nominated Sally for the Yale Educator Recognition Program. And I'm going to read this to you because it's impressive. Matriculating students are invited to nominate high school educators, and a committee composed of Yale admission officers reviews the nominations individually and designates recipients of this year's 385 nominees who represent 43 states, and this one really got me, 28 countries. 80 teachers and 32 teachers were selected to receive the award. And one of those recipients is standing right next to me. So on behalf of PG High, on behalf of PGUSD, on behalf of William, because he's not here right now, congratulations on this tremendous recognition. It's so well deserved.
Thank you very much.
But wait, we're not done.
I do not want to.
A certificate of appreciation awarded to Sally Richmond for her enthusiastic and dedicated leadership as a computer science, CAD, and engineering teacher. And I'll add in there a math teacher also at Pacific Grove High School for promoting and inspiring community support and for the thoughtful service provided to the district. The Pacific Grove Unified District expresses its sincere appreciation to Sally Richmond.
Thank you. You're welcome to say a few words if you like, Miss Richmond, but you don't like, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a bright spot tonight. Thank you. Okay, so next up is our consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and may have been discussed at a previous board meeting. There's no discussion of these items prior to the board vote unless a member of the board requests specific items be discussed and or removed from the consent agenda. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the Board of Trustees shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. So tonight, we have this consent agenda in front of us. I'll start with trustee Otmar. Any questions, ideas, concerns?
Not tonight. No, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brian Swanson.
No, nothing to pull. Thank you.
Okay. I do not have anything to pull. Trustee Hazen.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Thanks. Clerk McNary.
Nothing to pull. Thank you for the corrections and the summary sheet. I dig that. Thank you. Yeah.
What summary sheet is that?
Summary of the changes to the agenda for
Oh,
tonight. I like having
sure.
them all in one place.
Okay, awesome. Yes,
Right
thank
on.
you so much. Welcome, trustee DiMaggio is here. It is 7:03. Thank you so much. Please don't feel late. We appreciate you coming when you can. We know you have a lot of obligations, so thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so we've went around once to all the trustees. We're gonna go out for public comment and see if any member of the public, either online or in person, would like to comment on this. We'll give it just a moment, and this is again, commenting on consent agenda. Okay, seeing no one with their hand raised online, and I don't see anyone here in person making their way up to the podium. Trustees, if you have a further question that's popped in your head, please let me know. Otherwise, we are ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve consent with the changes noted.
Thank you. I'll second. So motion made by Clerk McNary, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Majority vote, please, Mandy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have a couple public hearings. The first public hearing, public hearing 1, action discussion item A. We're going to do the public hearing and then immediately after the approval with the action item related to the public hearing. So Josh, Mr. Jordan, this is your item, so I'll let you initiate the public hearing. Do you want me to hit the gavel and open the meeting? Okay, so 7:04 opening public hearing of Pacific Grove Teachers Association Sunshine List for 23-24.
Thank you. Thank you, President Carlin. Government Code Section 3457 provides the basis and procedures for recognition of Pacific Grove Teachers Association, California Teachers Association's initial proposal for negotiations with Pacific Grove Unified School District for the 23-24 school year. The Pacific Grove Teachers Association is proposing to negotiate the following sections of the certificated bargaining agreement. Item 1, Section 2, wages. Item 2, Section 3, benefits. Item 3, Section 5, leaves, and item 4, Section 8, hours of employment.
Thank you. And with that, because it's a public hearing, we will open this up for public comments right now. Okay, we'll give it just a couple seconds. We're not seeing anyone wishing to comment on this. And so, Mr. Jordan, with that, is it all right if I close the public hearing?
It is.
Okay, closing the public hearing at 7:06. Okay. Next up is the action item directly related to the public hearing. So this is approval of the Pacific Grove Teachers Association Sunshine List for the 23-24 school year. Mr. Jordan, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay, thank you so much. And with this, we'll go out to public comment once again, because we do public comment on all of our action items. Anyone wishing to raise their hand online, please do so. And I don't see anyone here in public either, and Lewis is letting me know one online. Trustee DiMaggio, did you have any thing to add to this?
None, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And trustees, is there anyone who had anything pop in their mind and want to say something? Okay, trustee Hazen, let's start with you. Go ahead.
And I'm going to cheat a little bit because this was proposed by Miss Sally Richmond and comment a little bit on her award in that
Yeah.
I would not be here where I am today without my high school chemistry teacher. So I just want everyone out here to be aware, especially the teachers, how much of an impact you can and do have on your, children's lives and careers. So thanks. I'm very fortunate to know that we have so many good teachers in our district.
And you support their sunshine list?
I support this wholeheartedly. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Clerk McNary,
Nothing from me. Thank you.
trustee Otmar? No? Okay. Trustee Brian Swanson?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. I don't have any comment either. And student trustee DiMaggio, we heard from you. So with that, can we get a motion to approve on staff's recommendation?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second. So a motion made by trustee Hazen, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Mandy, do you mind? Oh, you're ready. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now on to our next public hearing for the night. Public hearing of Pacific Grove Unified School District, Pacific Grove Teachers Association Negotiation Sunshine Topics 2324. It's 7:08. Mr. Rogeman, Director Rogeman, are you okay if we open the hearing right now? Okay, trustee, yeah. 7:08. Go ahead.
Good evening, trustees. I'm Buck Rogeman, the Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, also the lead negotiator for Pacific Grove Unified School District in our negotiations with the Pacific Grove Teachers Association. The four items that the district would like to sunshine for this year's negotiations are Section 2, wages, Section 3, employee benefits, Section 6, transfers and assignments, and Section 9, evaluation. Once again, we look forward to the negotiations process with the Pacific Grove Teachers Association. It's gone very well in the past, and we expect it to go well again this year.
Thank you, Director Rogeman. And while we ask for any public comment online or in person, would you mind just explaining why it's called Sunshine Topics, or kind of like the reason?
Sure. That each year the previous year's agreement allows us to open two topics in addition to the wages and benefits. And we have to have a public hearing so that the public is aware of the items of the contract. They're going to be up for negotiations. If the public cares to comment on any of these items, they have the ability to do so now during the public comment period. And they also are welcome to give any kind of written feedback that they would like to the district, probably best addressed to me as the lead negotiator for the district.
Thank you. That was a great description. Okay, with that, Lewis, is there anyone online with their hand up? Nope. Okay, anyone here in person? No one's making their way up to the podium. So with that, Director Rogeman, is it all right with you if we close the public hearing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, it is 7:10. Closed. All right, immediately following is now the action item related to this public hearing. So approval of Pacific Grove Unified School District, Pacific Grove Teachers Association Negotiation Sunshine Topics 2324. Board, do you have any comments on this item whatsoever? Clerk McNary? Trustee Otmar?
Yep.
Trustee Brian?
Nope.
I do not. Trustee Hazen? And student trustee DiMaggio?
No.
None. Okay, thank you so much. And we'll go out to public comment again, just because as part of an action item, we always go out to public comment, even though we just had a public hearing. Lewis, anybody? Okay. No one would like to contribute public comment, which is fine. So with that, can we get a motion?
Happy to make a motion to approve this item.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Hazen has made a motion. I will second it. So Carolyn Swanson seconding. Mandy, do you mind?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving right along. Action discussion continued on the agenda. We're on page 4 of the agenda, by the way. Resolution number 1114 for the GAN limit for the 23-24 school year. Mr. Jordan, this is your item. And it's a resolution, so we are going to do what's it called? The vote? When do you call it? Roll call vote. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Jordan.
So every year, the district takes a look at its revenues, especially in a district that's a basic aid district, and we have to adopt a GAN limit. The GAN limit was enacted by Paul Gann, who was assemblyman in the state of California, and it's associated, as I mentioned, with excess revenues or excess expenditures by a local educational agency or other local entity. So this year, we are bringing forward the resolution to increase the GAN limit. Small increase this year of 779,356 over GAN limit, which is underneath the allowable ratio. It does not mean declining ADA, but what it does is it allows us to increase our GAN for revenues. So with that, I will open it for any questions.
Thank you for that description. Trustee Otmar, any comments?
Not from me tonight, thank you.
Okay, trustee Brian Swanson.
No, I think this is the 8th time I've seen it now. So yeah, I'm good.
I do not have any comments. Trustee Hazen?
Nope, none for me. Thank you.
Okay. Clerk McNary
Nothing. Thank you.
and student trustee DiMaggio.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. With that, we're going to roll out to public comment. Lewis, is there anyone showing interest? I don't see. Okay, thank you. And I don't see anyone making their way up to the podium. So we'll close public comment on that. We would need a motion to approve this. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you. Clerk McNary makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Otmar. Mandy, do you mind roll call vote?
Student advisory? Sorry,
Aye.
thank you. President Swanson,
Aye.
Clerk McNary,
Aye.
Dr. Hazen,
Aye.
Trustee Otmar,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Next up is action item D, resolution number 1115, recognizing National Hispanic Heritage Month. And just say really quickly, there was a small typo on the cover sheet that mentioned October 23rd, but the resolution is for September 15th through October 15th. So resolution is accurate. And with that, let's go to trustee Brian Swanson if you have any comments on this item. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Jordan, if you have anything to add. Okay, thank you. Trustee Brian, go ahead.
No comment.
Okay. I am next on the commenting list and I am in favor of this and I'm glad to see it. Trustee Hazen.
Yeah, no, just really happy with these resolutions, though. Thank you for making sure they're part of our agenda.
Credit goes to Clerk McNary and Mr. Jordan, working hard on these. And I would say Mandy Ackerman as well. Yeah. Clerk McNary.
Also happy to see it on the agenda and I support it.
Okay. Trustee Otmar.
I am in full support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Student trustee DiMaggio.
We'll support as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, with that, we'll move out to public comment. Please do raise your hand and let us know if you have any comment on this item. We truly would love to hear from you. Okay, I don't see anyone online raising their hand. Thank you so much, Lewis. And I don't see anyone in person making their way up to the podium. So with that, we'll close public comment. Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution recognizing National Hispanic Heritage Month.
And I'm happy to second that.
Okay, great. Clerk McNary made the motion. Dr. Hazen seconded it. And this is also a resolution. So with that, Mandy, do you mind doing roll call vote, please?
Student advisory,
Aye.
President Swanson,
Aye.
Clerk McNary,
Aye.
Dr. Hazen,
Aye.
Trustee Otmar,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. With that, we are on action item E, which is board calendar, future meetings. Mr. Jorn.
Yeah, we have the board calendar, future meetings here, August through December 2023, and we have no changes since our last adoption.
Okay, thank you so much. Just flipping to it right now. It's on page 328 of the packet. Thank you, by the way, for adding the times. I think that was Dr. Hazen's ask. I thought, and that's a really good idea. So thank you to Mandy, I'm guessing, for adding those. It says closed session 5:30, open session 6:30 on the regular meetings. Are we okay with closed session? Should we put TBD because sometimes it's at 5 and sometimes it's at 6, or do you want to leave it at 5:30? What do you think, Mr. Jordan?
I think the consensus was 5:30. If we need to make a change, we can make a change at the very next board meeting. I believe she reached out, Mandy did, to everyone associated with this prior to bringing it forward tonight, so.
Okay, so going forward, if we have regular meeting, we are all assuming it's starting at 5:30. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, okay, understood. That was my only question. Student trustee DiMaggio, anything?
No comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hazen?
Nope, nothing more for me on this. We have a busy couple of weeks coming up.
We do have a busy time. Clerk McNary.
Quick question. When do we approve January through June 2024, Mr. Jorn?
We will bring that forward in November, I believe. Actually, no, I think it's on the October board meeting. I didn't verify that with Mandy, but I believe it's in our October board
Okay,
meeting.
we can touch
Because
base.
we've already went through that at our calendar committee
Right.
meeting.
Okay, I'll check back with you. Thank you.
Okay, trustee Otmar?
I'm good. I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Trustee Brian Swanson.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. We've gone around to the board. So is there any public comment related to our board calendar, future meetings? Please raise your digital hand or make your way to the podium. Okay, we don't see anyone raising their digital hand and no one making their way up to the podium. So I'll close out public comment. And with that, can we get a motion? I'll make a motion on step. Oh, wait.
Do we need a motion if there aren't changes to the calendar, or are there changes?
The changes were the times that were added, but there were no actual changes to the calendar aside from closed session times.
Okay, so are you okay with us just nodding our heads? Okay, great. So we will move on. Thank you, Clerk McNary.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Okay, next up, information discussion, elementary campus shade structures. Mr. Director John Anderson, this one is yours.
Sorry about that, folks. Let's see if you're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay. Made a mistake. Classes, they're very important. Okay. From the beginning. Okay, I'm excited to talk to you.
Better share the other. Oh, you got it.
No, it's up. Okay, I'm excited to share with you tonight some information on the shade structures. We actually hired DCA as a consultant to come up with some ideas and some pricing for us. That information recently came in, so Josh asked me to put together a presentation and present it to you all tonight. So come on, next. There it goes. Okay, so first I'd like to talk a little bit about the types of shade structures. When you say shade structure, some people might glass over and not really understand what they are. And so I also wanted to talk about some of the benefits and disadvantages of shade structures. The first one I'm going to talk about is the four-point high par cell. Benefits, it has fewer posts and it's very stylish. Disadvantages is it has a very high cost and actually gives less coverage. So looks cool, looks fancy, doesn't really perform as well as we'd like. And of course, these opinions are kind of based on my own research and what others have said online about these structures. So a little bit opinionated, but based on not just my own information. Okay, so the hip shade in a square pattern. The benefits of these type of shade structures is that they're very economical. They have slightly more coverage than the high parcel. Disadvantages, they often have more posts than a high parcel, and they're not quite as stylish. So, you know, the hip shade in a rectangular pattern. This is a very economical shade. They allow the greatest amount of coverage with the fewest number of posts. The disadvantage, of course, is that they're still not quite as stylish as the high par. And then there's the umbrella shade. Umbrella shades, they're just what they say they are. They're just a really big umbrella stuck in the ground. So they're cute, and they only have one post. So those are the benefits. Disadvantage, they kind of offer very little coverage. They're not very economical. They actually cost more than the other ones. And one of the disadvantages is that they only have one post. So you may ask yourself, how can it be both a benefit and a disadvantage to only have one post? It's when you try to set things underneath something with one post, you know, you go to set a table in the middle and it's right in the way, and the post is securely fastened to the ground. So you have to arrange furniture around it, if that makes sense. Okay. So the proposals that were put together for us by DCA cover strictly the hard costs. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about hard cost versus soft cost. Hard costs generally make up approximately 70 to 80% of the construction costs. Those hard costs cover the actual acquisition and installation of the shade structures. Soft costs on average are 15 to 30% of the construction costs, and soft costs may include items such as architectural design, plans, DSA fees, site surveys, soil testing if necessary, inspections, and of course oversight. So keep in mind as we go through the rest of the slides that it's based on the hard costs only. So just imagine adding 15 to 30% to each one of the prices that you see. The other disclaimer I'm going to give you is that the way the package was put into the board package, it follows what DCA gave me. I have actually separated it out by site, and because things were a little bit out of order. So when you see the options, they're going to be numbered, not in sequentially, but they're numbered to match the sheet in the program tonight. Okay.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Will you just let everyone know the difference between DCA, the contractor you were contracted with, and DSA, the state entity?
So DCA is the architectural firm that we've hired, and the DSA is the Division of State Architects. So that's a government entity.
And when you say DSA fees, you're not obviously talking
not
about
DSA.
DCA fees. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so first up is the Forest Grove lunch area shade options. Option one would cost somewhere between $110,000 and $116,000. And the first option was just kind of something we put on the table. It was kind of a random idea of if the lunch area were actually placed between a couple of the buildings to maintain full use of the playground area. So it's just kind of a random idea we thought we'd set out there to be seen. The best fit for those is 3 single post pyramids. And by code, they have to be 24 inches, which is 2 feet above the roof line to make those legal. So that was just kind of a random idea. And that's what it would look like. You could see that by those 3 blue umbrellas between building A and B. B and C. Okay. So now moving shade structures over to where the actual tables are being used, where they are today. They were placed there, my understanding, during COVID for outdoor dining. So this option is the square hip style, and these would be, those 2 in the middle there would be joined at the hip. So if you've heard that term joined at the hip, it means actually where you join 2 roofs together. So the option here is $100,000 to $126,000 for 3 shade structures in this area. Next up is 4 umbrellas in the same area, and you'll see that the cost is significantly higher at $135,000 to $140,000. And if you'll notice, the coverage is slightly less. And with 1 post in the middle of each one of those sections, it gets a little strange in the way you'd have to arrange tables to move them around those posts. So consider that. So here's the high parcel for the same area, the 3 high parcels. And again, look at the increase in dollars, $215,000, $220,000 for 3 high parcels. Boy, wouldn't they look cute? Sorry. And then in the now we're moving on to the Forest Grove Kinder area shades. And this is 110 to 116,000 for 3 umbrellas in that area. Again, we would have to arrange the tables on either side of those single posts down the middle. And then I'm not going to lie, this is my favorite for this area, Forest Grove shade option 3, $50,000 to $55,000 for a very plain Jane styled roof, if you will. But it allows for the most coverage with only 4 posts, and you have a lot of mobility to move those tables around underneath that area. And then here is a similar setup with 2 actual square hip style attached at the hip. And here you would have 8 posts again. So that was 8 posts as opposed to 4 with the previous version. And again, the cost goes up significantly from $80,000 to $100,000. Let's go to Forest Grove. So, I mean, Robert Down. So high parcels coming up first on this one, $220,000 to $230,000 for 3 high parcels. Notice the coverage and where those posts land in this example. One of those posts is we're right in the smack dab in the center where one of the tables are now. So we'd have to move tables around. Although this provides, from looking down from above, it provides quite a bit of coverage. But because of the way the high parcels are located on the posts, it actually gives less coverage than you actually see here. Here is a combination of hip rectangular style shades attached at the hip again at the 3 points, 2 points in the center for the 3. I mean, 130 to 158,000 for this option. Here we have 4 large square shades in the hip style. Again, so this would be quite a few posts. So 4 posts for each. That's total 16 posts. So you can imagine there'd be a lot of posts in the ground around there. Here we have 2 rectangular units attached to the hip. So here we'd only have 8 posts and you get virtually the same coverage as the other 4. I tend to like this option because we have some tables under the shade and some in the shade. It would give students an option to sit in the sunshine if they'd like. I like also the price on this one, $85,000 to $90,000. And the last option would be 2 small squares. Probably not enough coverage in this area. The previous option, I would actually prefer. Of course, this is open to discussion, so it's. I just would approve the previous one is more my style. And actually, that pretty much concludes it. Any questions?
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just have 2 short questions or comments. I'm happy with any of these. I would ask if we could have the sites vote on what they want, since like you were saying, like maybe it's a combo, whatever, the site staff are gonna know their needs the best. And so I'm happy with any of the options.
For sure.
Student trustee DiMaggio.
Yeah, for our rare days of sunshine, it'd be great. Yeah, love the idea.
Or rain, if people
yeah,
want to
yeah.
eat outside, it could be a mild temperature, maybe.
Right.
Good idea.
Maybe outside for rain. Trustee Hazen, Dr. Hazen.
Yeah, so excited to see this. I remember a site council discussion of these structures way back when. And so following on your point, Trustee Carolyn, I would love if there was an opportunity to get site council feedback before we have it as an action item at that timing.
Agreed.
Yeah, and site council's that great combo, right, of staff and parents and it's
Right.
classified and.
And I know at least some of the ideas are originated from that. I have a few more questions if that's okay. Some specific. The one concern I have of the hip is like where they joined at the hip is weakness. So I assume they're going to be fixed, right? There's no gap there.
Yeah, no, when you see the way they're installed, there would probably be a gap. These are just basically butted together. I would have to find out in detail, but I don't believe they lash them together. They're actually they just butt
So
together.
imagining days of heavy rain, those could be an area where you would have pretty large flow.
Oh, these are shade structures. So they're they're not waterproof. Yeah,
Oh, so water would flow freely through, there would be no water flow on top of them.
correct.
This is good to know. And so I did want to ask too, I assume the answer is no, but are any of the shade structures removable if we wanted to, following up on Trustee DiMaggio's point of the few sunny days? Like, could you roll them back, or would that be more
You know,
difficult?
once they're in place, they're firmly affixed.
Another one I had is, I noticed the post attachments were often even with the fewer posts, were kind of up against or close to hard structures, but not quite on them, if that makes sense. Like, you know, for example, in Forest Grove, is there a possibility of them being attached to the roof, or is that just a construction nightmare to consider? Because I would love to not put posts in play areas.
Unfortunately, we actually thought that through, and fire code, that's why I mentioned about them having to be 24 inches above the roof line.
Okay, and then the other question I had for the Robert, that was a Forest Grove space. For the Robert Downs space, I noticed, you know, there is kind of a concrete wall on the edge of the dining area. Could you put the posts as part of that concrete wall again, so they're not in the way of traffic?
What I discussed on site is we'd have to actually put the post over the wall and into the dirt area.
Okay.
Because we would have to basically core in what's called a caisson to pour footing.
But the point being is, because the way they were drawn, it looked like they were more in the area, which might create traffic jams with little kiddos running around.
We try to get as many either like where they're not going to actually cause that type of a blockage for pedestrian traffic, or get them over into the dirt. Yeah.
And so I'm going to guess the answer is no to this last question, but I'll ask it anyway. Is, you know, one of my thoughts, and especially if they're open and just for shade, do any of these serve to meet California regulations for teaching space? Like, could it be an outdoor classroom?
I believe so. Yeah. So
that's great news. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Dr. Hazen. Trustee Clerk McNary.
So if they are for shade and not to protect students from other weather besides sun, what's the lifespan on something like this? Are we leaving it outside during wet or windy or rainy months? And then how does that impact?
They're technically a permanent structure.
Okay.
It's a poured in place footing with the aluminum or metal structure. And then the shade cloth has a lifespan of up to 10, 12 years. Yeah. And we'd have to wash them regularly.
Okay.
At least once a year. So we'd have to spray them down.
Thank you. I think I'm comfortable with any of them. I tend to lean towards greater coverage for lower cost. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Otmar.
I think a lot of my questions have already been covered. I guess when I looked at this, I assumed that it was for heavy fog days, or maybe not rain so much, but those heavy wet days. But it sounds like that heavy fog would just drip through. Is it?
I think it's like any other, outdoor shade type structure that you've seen at a hotel or something. They probably hold back a little bit of water, but once they get really wet, and like a tent or something, if you were to touch it on the inside, it would start dripping from there. So they're not waterproof. They probably would hold back moisture, but definitely not rain.
Okay. I guess that in this area, that might be a little bit difficult, because if it's a heavy fog day, summertime, I guess would be our heaviest time, but kids aren't there. But if there's a lot of fog and that gets saturated with water and kids are trying to sit outside and they're getting dripped on, I guess that just is what it is.
Is what it is.
Is what it is. Is there a way to change the fabric or to make it so that it's?
That might be an option. I could research that for you. Yeah, and I think it would be considerably more. There's also aluminum options that are extremely, probably double the price. Yeah.
Okay. And then as far as our very windy days, or I would assume it's covered by warranty, that it's not.
Yeah, and
that shouldn't be an
I
issue.
believe they're rated for 100 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And hopefully this is not an offensive question, but I understand, as you pointed out, we don't have a ton of sunny days. So why are we?
Looking at me?
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
Sure. So
I'll defer to Josh.
yeah, so early on last year, this was a discussion with the board as to initially the thought process was providing coverage for the issues related to seagulls, right? So when we first talked about this, I want to go back maybe a year ago. We were looking at, providing shade for the students during sunny days, kind of a shaded area. We don't have anything on the outside of most of the buildings. And also the issue with students eating lunches on the tables as they sit, that the seagulls are coming down and grabbing the food and kind of making a mess. So it was like a combination of, trying to, I'll use the term, kill two birds with one stone.
There you go. Okay.
Sitting.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All my questions have been answered, so thank you very much. And I am also happy with whatever staff thinks works best at their site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to bounce back to trustee Hazen for a second? Will you let us know the reason for the shade too? Was there anything in addition that the site council was discussing?
I mean, there are maybe few sunny days, but I would say that leaves some of our students less equipped for sunny days than they would otherwise be. So when you have particularly sunny days, it is nice to give those kids an option for shade especially if they're gonna be outside for PE, et cetera.
Yeah.
The other option, I mean, I will say personally, I know at site council, way back when it came up for the outdoor education part. I know there've been assemblies outdoors at Robert Down, and if you're trying to show a video, good luck if it is sunny. But having this shade structure would allow for a little bit more opportunity if there's a need.
Yeah. Well, and sun, even though it's a foggy day, sun still gets through. Like the solar on my house is pumping on a foggy day. So that's still contributing to UV exposure.
Yep. And
Okay.
if I could just one quick follow-up on the point brought up by trustee Otmar, I would love if there's a way just to not necessarily, either look into rain protection or addable rain protection. If we have a situation where we need outdoor space and it might be useful, see if there's something out there that could be attached to the structures to make it.
I'll follow up with that research. Okay.
Trustee Brian Swanson?
Well, trustee Otmar asked my main question, which was why, but because I was trying to figure out too, what was it? And I thought about, well, it could be the seagulls to protect the kids from either the seagulls going after their food or just seagulls flying over after they've eaten and spoil. So no, the great presentation. I don't think you love the most stylish one. It seems like
Is that obvious?
Yeah. And it's nice, but you're right too. It's like it's too expensive and it doesn't do the job. So that's kind of the only one that I would really rather not see. But I think the people on site are the experts in what they need. And so long as it works within the budget that we have, I'm down.
Very true.
Thank you. And let's go out with that. I didn't forget any trustees, right? Okay, thank you. So with that, let's go out to public comment. We would love to hear, and if any of the principals would like to comment, we would so love to hear what you have to say. Don't feel like you have to. But oh, good, we have 3 people. Okay, and so we have 3 people who've got their hands raised online. Mr. Keller, do you want to go first? Okay. Mr. Keller is making its way up. We will alternate between in-person and online commenters.
Hi, good evening. Sean Keller, principal at Robert Down. And I'll just say that back when we were talking about the shade structures, there were definitely an increase of seagull attacks that were very traumatizing, mostly to kindergartners. And I will say after COVID, they have been reduced. However, we still have once in a while a pretty traumatizing, and I'm sure if you've been to Lover's Point, to the grill, you're going for the sandwich and the seagull comes and takes it. And that's exactly what happens. And sometimes the kids get bit. So it is a safety issue too. I would love to see them be weatherproof completely. And I know that when it gets above maybe 72, our kids feel like they're melting. So I think they would appreciate it. But I will say to Mr. Anderson, and thank you so much for recommending to have the site councils talk about this, and definitely our staff, that I think we can leave some, if there is sun, some kids love when the sun comes out. So we don't have to, at least at Robert Down, we don't have to fill in the entire space. Thank you.
Good feedback. Thank you. So we're going to hop online. The first person I see with their hand up, Ron W. Is that okay with you, Lewis? Okay. Ron W., we will unmute you.
Oh, thank you. Good evening. This is Renee Woods, 4th grade teacher at Forest Grove. Thank you, John, for that presentation. These areas are being referred to as lunch areas, and I'm curious if that means that Forest Grove students may be permitted to eat their lunches outdoors again. And then I would like to follow that question up with a second one. regardless of the purchase of shade structures? Is their current lunch eating outdoors dependent upon this purchasing? Thank you.
Mr. Jordan? No response. Okay. Sorry, this is a question that came in from a member of the public, but I should have been more clear that I too share this question. So do you mind answering me on it?
I wasn't aware that there was a practice for only eating lunches indoors at certain sites at this point. I'd like Abby probably to come up and talk about that if she could. I think the idea and the intent was to give us flexible eating areas throughout each campus.
Okay.
So that was the initial intent. I don't believe it was to direct students outside or inside. It was to give them an alternative solution
Okay.
for eating.
Does Robert Down eat outdoors? Do we know? They do. Okay. Please.
At the end of the last school year, the previous principal had purchased a bunch of new tables. And in an effort to make sure that our students were not running on the playground and choking on food and actually sitting down and eating their lunch, we as a staff chose at the beginning of the year to move them inside, with the exception of students who had just any medical needs or any students that we felt were high risk or had voice that they were uncomfortable being inside. Those students are still allowed to eat outside as long as teachers have shared with our staff. But for the most part, most of our students are eating inside, and we've seen a lot more success with it. The playground is a lot cleaner. We haven't seen spikes in illness as compared to last year. And in addition, our kids are actually sitting down and finally eating. And it's a lot safer out on the playground right now, structure-wise. And it's really been a great support for our staff so far. But I know that was one of my staff members that had shared. If it does become a concern, we'll continue to revisit in our staff meetings as we have been.
Thank you. Okay, so now I don't think anyone else, Principal Arbron, did you want to comment at all about the shade structures? And if you do not have to, you do not want to comment. Okay, no worries. Thank you. And so online we have Perkins, just says Perkins.
Hi, this is Jacqueline Perkins, teacher at Robert Down, as well as a former parent of a Robert Down student who was bitten by a seagull while eating. And it used to be a big issue, especially on Friday pizza days. Children were bitten quite a bit as the seagulls would take their pizzas. So we've been asking for a very long time to have some sort of structure that would, protect the kids from the seagulls as they are protected from us. We can't do anything to kind of dissuade them from coming in. So that, as well as, even though we don't have a lot of high sunshiny days, we do have a lot of bright cloudy days. And if you go to the Robert Down lunch area, between the aluminum tables and the white concrete, it's sort of blinding. As I walk through there, I always have to put my sunglasses on. So even on a cloudy day, it's very, very bright in that area. So the sunshade would really help. And then the other issue of the posts and kids going through, that's not a thoroughfare. That is an eating only, or an area where teachers take their children for outdoor ed. So it's not an area where kids are just running freely through. Thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you so much for your comment. We have one more individual online, Robin Pelk.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, Rainey or Ms. Woods asked the question that that I had as well. So I hear it's still maybe open or might be revisited as far as whether outdoor lunch would be brought back to Forest Grove. So I think that is obviously relevant in terms of whether the shade structures make sense or not. And I just wanted to say that as a parent and as a scientist who is, somewhat familiar with how you can minimize not just COVID, but flu and all the other diseases that are circulating, I'm very much in favor of going back to outdoor lunch, or at least having that be a choice that's available to all families. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Robin Pelk. I have a question that popped into my mind because I don't see any more members of the public wishing to comment. So we're going to go back around trustees if they have any questions. And my question is, because we do have 2 elementary schools, should we kind of talk about setting forth, I'm thinking maybe like what percentage of seating we want covered for like the student body enrollment so that we don't end up with like, oh, well, you know, Robert Down has a really tiny shade structure, but Forest Grove has an enormous one that can hold 100 kids and Robert Down only has one that can hold 25 kids or something, you know, something like that. So, I don't know if that direction necessarily needs to come from the board, but I think, Mr. Jordan, you're great at kind of coordinating sites. So if you wanted to just make sure, in my opinion, that was on the radar, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. And the intent for the kind of bifurcated solution at Forest Grove was we intended to make sure that there was enough seating comparable to Robert Down. That was the initial thought. Of course, the lower playground areas for the TK kinder. But that was the initial thought process associated was.
Yeah, comparable, not necessarily equal, but you know, yeah, I like that you use that word.
And it was really clear. I heard from everyone here that the sites need to address this at the site level. And this is the next discussion that will be held with each one of the sites. But the design process was associated with comparable seating, comparable outdoor shade for each school site.
Yeah, thank you. Trustee DiMaggio, any further thoughts?
No, thank you.
Dr. Hazen?
Nope, no additional things.
No, okay. Clerk McNary?
Nothing new.
Okay, Trustee Otmar?
My question is, once staff decides on what might work best at their site, could we also get a quote on having something that is fully weatherproofed so we can see the cost difference between the two? And then if a site decides that might suit them best, they could choose that instead, because it sounds like there might be a desire to look at that.
Absolutely. So I think that the first thing we need to look at each site is, do they want a shade structure or a structure itself? And how big will that be? What type of coverage do we need? That's a site level discussion. And then what we'll do is we could have then 2 options, right? So it sounds like the HIP option is more or less the best for coverage. They do USA Shade. There's many companies that make an option with an aluminum roof. As John mentioned, ballpark, I've done many of these throughout the county. When you're looking at about $125,000 shade structure, HIP structure, one of the larger ones at Robert Down, you notice that was the biggest. Comparable for full coverage, you're looking at around $400,000. It's about 4 times the amount because of DSA. Number one, you have seismic loading issues you're dealing with, lateral loading issues you're dealing with. The size of the footings are enormous for structures like that. So we put them up all the time, all over the place. So I think what we would do is just bring back 2 options, either the shade version or the hard roof version. And we would weigh out the options related to cost.
Is there another option that is also fabric that could keep heavy fog or rain out, that's not a solid structure or a solid roof structure?
Now, see, most of the structures that I've actually had installed in my time were the shade style structures, and they are not. They do wick water up and they do release water, but I've been under them during rain and it will protect you from rain. It's just dripping on you, right? So some of the fabrics are better than others. Some of them are more porous than others. So we're looking at the more tight knit fabric, tight knit weave to keep it less porous. But really what we're talking about is kind of a shade structure that is porous or one that is not.
If I could, just a quick point on that with the aluminum, the 4 times the cost, but there could be an increase in longevity as well, right? So I am a big fan of trying to look for some of these hybrid options, exactly as Trustee Otmar said, because that would be a huge cost to the district. But something again, when it comes back, would be great to have.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk with site council about this, but right. So again, I'm just going to use Robert Down for an example because it was a large area. You saw maybe 3 structures. Maybe there's a hybrid combination where you have 2 of the structures being a hard fixed roof structure, one of the structures being canopy shade, possibly. So these will be topics we'll discuss with site council.
Thank you for going into so much detail. I appreciate it. Any other trustees have any comments? Seeing nobody. We kind of closed out public comment earlier. So we're done with public comment at this time, but if you wanted to comment and you didn't get a chance, please send an email. We are always super happy to get emails, so please let us know. any comment that way. Direction, are you clear on direction, Mr. Jorn? Do you want us to go around and make sure that everyone agrees on direction, or?
No, I'm pretty clear. We're looking for total coverage, most coverage for the benefit of cost, and the sites need to address this on their own first before we bring it back.
Okay, trustees, are you all in agreement with that? Okay, sounds great. Moving on to info discussion item B, which is summer school review 2023. And Director Rokeman, this is your item, please.
Good evening, trustees. Buck Rogeman, the Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, and it's my pleasure to give a little bit of an overview of the summer school program that we had this year. And then when we look at the data, I would actually like to call our summer school principal, Linda Williams, up to the microphone so that she can actually share the data. But once again, what we did this summer was we followed the model that we established in 2021, where we had three components to the summer school program. What we did was we focused on literacy with our kindergarten through second grade students. It was a gen ed program that was meant to intervene with our students who need a little bit more attention in the area of reading. Then we also had a credit recovery program for our secondary students, which meant both middle school and high school students were able to recover credits in classes where they may have failed during the school year. Then the final component of our summer school program is the extended school year program that we offer to our students that are in our special day class in inclusion program at all levels. And so that part of the program was underseen by our former Director of Student Services, Claire Davies, but the Gen Ed program was overseen by Linda Williams. So Linda, if you don't mind, I'm going to have you come on up here and you can talk a little bit about the data. Louis, I don't know if you can project the packet and the item from or that is included in the packet that talks a little bit about the data. But Ms. Williams, I have it here if you'd like to scroll. Okay, so you have that there.
Yeah, and you have the packet? Okay, great. Well, it's good to be back. It's been about 5 years, so I'm overdue. We had 36 students in our Gen Ed reading intervention program, K through 2. Again, I was hired about 2 weeks before summer school started. There had been no registration when I got on board. And so in talking with the intervention ELD teachers, they really wanted to target a certain group of students. So that's what we went ahead and did, because we realized that most students had already made plans for the summer. They were going to go to grandma's, summer camp or whatnot. So it'd be kind of late to be sending it out en masse. But that is something Buck and I will talk about at the end, some recommendations for the years to come, the summer to come. What do you want that program to look like? Middle school, we had 13 students, high school, 47. And you can kind of see these are just very basic charts that I put together at the end of summer school, not knowing if you needed the information or not, but you can see the biggest group there was our first grade group. If you keep scrolling, oh, I'm controlling it. There we go. We did, you know, at the end of every school year, both Forest Grove and Robert Down had their end of the year testing that they gave. So we took those students' grades on those end of year benchmark tests for reading fluency. You can obviously, the students referred to summer school. There were not too many that were reading at grade level in May. And then we did our post-test the last week of summer school. And again, out of the 37 students, you can see there's about 31 that are now at grade level. So academically, we had a lot of success with our students. These teachers were focused. We had a one-day training for all of them. We had all the materials ready to go. And so I think that's what made it successful. Just looking at these students in kindergarten, you can see again where they started and where they ended, with that black line being our end of the year goal for all kindergartners. So of course, none of them were at that at the beginning of summer school. Again, this is their end of year data from May. So we just took that, gave them the same benchmark tests the last week of summer school, and you can see their success and how well they did. I think another element was making sure that these students are reading. And so all of them were enrolled in the summer reading program through our Pacific Grove Public Library.
We had each of the students get to know Miss Mary, our PG librarian. She came to Forest Grove on a regular basis. And the students read over 400 books, about 12 books per student. Our middle school credit recovery program, there were 14 students invited, students who had an F in one or more subjects were invited to come. Of those 14 students invited, 13 did attend because one of the students moved away the first week of summer school, was not in our district anymore, unable to attend. All of those students, and you'll see the graph at the end, were able to complete at least one semester during the 4-week summer school. You can kind of see, typically it's math that we get students for in summer school. In the data that I had, I was summer school principal for about 13 or 14 years, up until about 5 years ago. And it was always math, both middle school and high school. And you can see now that has changed. For the middle school this year, it was English. Most of the students were there for. When you look at the total enrollment, just going back to the last 3 years, Larry Heckwith had provided us the data from 21 and 22. You can see the number of our students increased at the high school from 49 to 55. Again, this year it was 47. We did invite 51 students because of their Fs. 47 did attend. Of those 47, we thought, gosh, how are we going to beat 80%? And we said, we're going to go for 100. Why shouldn't every student not be able to complete a semester worth of work? And so very dedicated high school teachers were, Larry being one of them, and he was our lead, led the morning huddle every day. And we knew that connection with their teacher, that social emotional component, we wanted to make sure was embedded in our program with these students that spent 4 hours a day with us. And so of those students, 98%, only one did not complete. And that 2 course completions should be 20 students. I went back and looked up how many actually completed, and that would be 2 semesters. So a course is 1 semester. So of those 47, 20 of them actually completed 2 courses. And the one student that did not, was not able to complete because of health reasons. So academically, we did very well with the success of our students, but we want to look ahead to next summer and say, what do we want to do better? And that, again, is a discussion I think the principals need to have, the ELD teachers, the intervention teachers. I think by January, the vision for summer school needs to be in place. Do we want it to be a K-5 program? K-12, obviously, for special education, but do we want to K-5 bring back reading? Do we want math to be part of it? Typically, it's reading, writing, and math, 4 hours a day, 20 days, which is the requirement for special ed students. So we make that be what our summer school is. I know at the high school level, a lot of students want to be able to take credit recovery, even if they didn't get an F. They want to improve their grade to be eligible for a sport in the fall, or because they want it towards their GPA, they think they can do better. But again, that's a discussion Lito and Larry and their staff would want to have, to say, do we want students taking a semester class on Admetum and make that be equivalent to what we offer at the high school, or do we want them to retake their classes at the high school? For students on the football team or a fall sport, they're chomping at the bit to do this. And so I know parents even would be willing to pay that fee, that if the district paid it for students who have F, but if it was be an optional program for students. But again, that's a discussion I think the high school has to have to give feedback. Certainly by February, you want to have your principal in place. And by March, you want those registration forms in the teacher's hands. So at parent conferences, Mrs. Renteria can be signing up students so that parents know, oh, I'm committed to summer school for June. We're going to vacation. We're going to go see grandma. We're going to go to summer camp in July. So those decisions have to be made a little bit early on. But that's a discussion for the principals and some of our lead teachers to have with their staff to come up. Obviously, the cost has gone up. We have gone from $45 an hour instructional pay for teachers to $80 to $90 per hour, because now they're getting in proportion to whatever their yearly salary is. That's their hourly rate. So it might be teacher A gets paid $85 an hour, teacher B might get paid $78 per hour based on their yearly salary. We have 2 summer school principals, one for special ed, one for gen ed. We used to have 1. Do we really need to have 2? We have one principal at each site. We don't have two principals at each site. As you can see, typically the enrollment used to be over 100 students, about 125 elementary students, because it was a K-5 program. When things got tough and the budget, you know, and I think now the budget's going to look a little bit different because we're paying more out to staff, because that's what we are now paying our teachers. They very much deserve that. But do we want to go back to one principal? We've had one principal sometimes who has been a teacher and a principal, because once summer school gets up and running, it runs. You know, there's not much else. There's no committee meetings. There was zero discipline issues in summer school this year. And that's typically how it is. But when those moments come up once in a while, when the principal doesn't need to intervene with the student, it doesn't take long, you know? And so even the principal can be teaching a class. So those are some things just to throw out to you to think about, but maybe you want to. We always want to include that social emotional piece. Larry did a great job doing that at the high school program. At the elementary program, we tried to include a lot of different things so the kids wanted to come to school. We had cooperative games, we have cultural games, we had community people coming in and doing art and things with the students along with their literacy program. So again, just some things to consider and to make sure that we're ahead of the curve for 2024.
Thank you so much, Principal Williams.
I'll
Yeah,
hang out.
outstanding. And trustees, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have now.
Principal Williams, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a breath of fresh air. Thank you for the details, for the measurable ideas in the future. Thank you for making sure that we're including staff on those ideas in the future. You answered all of my questions that I had, which is like amazing. Thank you. With that, student trustee Damasio, anything?
Yeah, I think it's great to definitely have it optional. It's definitely brutal to lose players to bad grades, especially football. And I think it's great to learn from Mr. Hagquist's, especially with a high percentage rate, looking back from the 2 years, but almost practically 100%. Yes, great to learn from his actions.
Thank you. Dr. Hazen, please.
I mean, as was just stated, you answered so many of my questions that I had, which is amazing. I was so impressed with the results. I don't think there's that much room for improvement on the results. About, 48 out of 49 is hard, speaks for itself. The one thing is I appreciated that the statement about the increase in cost, but it still is a very low cost to the district for the results that are gained, in my opinion. So I am 100% in support of looking for opportunities to expand and trust the staff on how to do this. One idea that, had came up in our special board discussion a little bit is the idea of transitions. Do we want to think about those students that might be, might have the hardest time transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade, from, 8th grade to 9th grade, and think about some sort of a summer program for them to help with some of that. Again, I'm all for it. I think it's great. The other question I wanted to ask was, regarding the high school, particularly for those non-Fs that want the credit recovery, is dual enrollment an option for this? Is this something that would make sense to expand that aspect of it? Or is that not the best, academic learning environment for some of these kids?
I think we have to look at that, and that would be something that Principal Garcia and I could talk a little bit about, as well as the staff at the high school. I think that one of the things that has to be part of the conversation too is an Edmentum grade that is achieved over 4 weeks. Is it equivalent to a grade that is achieved over half of a school year? And I think that from an instructional standpoint, if I'm an English 2 teacher and a student makes up my course in 4 weeks, should those grades be equivalent and reflected as such on a transcript? And I think that's kind of a philosophical question that we have to look at, and the way to indicate that on the student record. So yeah. That's a deep conversation for us to have.
Just a quick comment on that. I mean, the grading for mastery makes that a much easier assessment than some of our older ways of doing it. It seems like.
Correct. That it wouldn't be necessarily a point-based, but more a skill-based approach.
Yeah. And you have to understand, these students are taking one class. They're in school 4 hours a day. And so from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And in addition to that, they're working at home. And so when you look at the time put in, you say, oh, it's just a month. But really, you know, if you were in school for 4 or 5 months a semester, you're going to the class, 3 to 4 hours a week, which would be equal to 1 day. So the time is really put in. But again, that's a decision that has to come from the high school.
Clerk McNary.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And the ideas for moving forward and how we can improve, even just like the timeline and knowing as a board, if we're not talking about summer school in January, we need to get going so that we can take some of those steps. And I think the idea of having greater capacity to expand the programming, if we start the discussion sooner, then that may be even a part of something we could start talking about. Because I love the idea of including kids who don't get Fs, but maybe have Cs or Ds. And also when we talk about reading and fluency, I think the goal is like 3rd grade, right? Because I remember this from Mr. Rogoman, up until 3rd grade, you're
learning to read,
and then you're like reading for comprehend. Yeah, you're reading for comprehension. So I guess I just wonder about the students that we might be missing that are 3rd graders or 4th graders that aren't at that level, but are kind of the daily expectations, or that they are fluent. And how we might be able to include them moving forward. So just ideas, but thank you so much for the detail and the metrics. This was lovely.
Trustee Otmar.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the metrics. And I'm very impressed with what's going on over there. All of my questions were answered. So I have nothing left to ask. Thank you. That was very thorough. I appreciate what you're doing.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
The results are incredibly impressive. It's also nice to see you again.
Yes, nice to be back.
It has been a while. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for stepping in kind of at the last minute when you did this too. But all the details really fabulous. I would love to hear as we move forward, how can we expand it? Whether it's, helping kids that want to play on teams that can't now. I think that's really a great idea. And especially when you think about it's like that does more than just help an individual student, progress. And, what the cost is, we don't know, but it's like it costs more to educate some kids than others. And that's one thing that I've always considered, that it's like, well, you know what, it's more it's expensive to operate community high with those kids over there, but you can't put a dollar amount on that. So how do we do that? How do we expand it, knowing that we still have to work within a budget? But I think taking a look at that is really great. And for the kids that are playing sports too, when they're able to do that, I think that impacts school spirit overall too, which is another important thing to consider, just what the environment is and how the kids are feeling about their teams. So I don't really have any questions, except for I don't know if I can ask this, but I am. It's like, what are you doing next summer?
Well, we'll find out.
Okay. All right. You can leave us hanging.
Just as always, the job will be posted and any interested candidates will have the ability to apply at that time.
Well said, Buck.
Yes. When a high school student is willing, we had a student come in and say, look, I didn't get an invite, but I had a 79, I got a C in a class. I got a 79.4, went in and saw my instructor, said, no, that doesn't round up to an 80. You don't have a B. And so that's, is it a 3.0? No, it's a 2.0 on your transcript. He wanted to come back in. He says, I know I can get a B. He goes, I know this stuff. I think I can really take this course again and get an 80%. And so you hate to see these kids who are willing to give their summer and because they want to do better. And so just something to, think about as the high school puts their plan together for next year.
If I may, just a little bit in closing too, I think that one of the things that will allow us to be able to expand the program that changed last year that wouldn't have been the case in years past is the fact that we changed the rate that people are getting paid. We had a much higher level of interest in teachers who wanted to work summer school because the wage finally became one with that. It made it a tenable way for them to spend their summers. I think the other thing too is by adjusting the wage for the administrator who's going to be in charge of overseeing summer school, that our ability to attract an administrator sooner in the year is also going to improve. And finally, on behalf of the district, I'm very grateful to Principal Williams for the incredible work that you did, but not only the work that you did, but the teaching staff as well as the classified staff that are the boots on the ground that did the daily work with our students, that were able to produce that kind of growth. We can never lose track that it's that human relationship. The data is great, but the students have to feel good about coming to summer school too. And I think the staff did a great job of making the kids feel good about coming.
And really, when you're doing negotiations and you are talking about the contract and transfers and that kind of thing, you might want to bring up, when we fly, it's truly based on seniority to the hiring. And so obviously people are going to want to come because they want to make the money, but we want them to also be able to teach students who are struggling. So, and not everybody can do that. Not everybody can teach reading. Now, and the way the contract reads is, well, if you're at an elementary site, you might be teaching 5th grade, but hey, you could teach 1st grade reading in summer school, but that might not be your ideal candidate really. And sure, we welcome everybody, but we may, as you're looking at the contract, that might be something, again, to negotiate with the union to say, in summer school, there's certain things. There's people who are trained in our reading intervention program that did not get hired that would make excellent candidates for summer school. So just some things to think about when you're putting your staff together.
Thank you
all very much.
Thank
Past
you
my bedtime,
so
it's
much.
past their bedtime.
Thank you so much. We're gonna go one more time around to trustees, out to and then out to public comment. So trustees, student trustee DiMaggio, anything?
Nothing more. Thank you.
Nothing more. Dr. Hazen?
Nothing more to add. Thank you.
Okay, Clerk McNary?
No.
Okay, trustee Otmar?
Nothing from me. Thank
Okay.
you.
Trustee Brian Swanson?
Nothing further.
Okay. The only thing that popped in my head was, there seems to have been a kind of an ongoing confusion about who we select for summer school, who we select to offer it. Obviously not for ESY because that's built into their individual education plan, but for kids who are in general education. So when we're looking at the planning, maybe in January or whatever, I don't think it's already on the website. It might be, but can we put on our website the information about who would qualify for being offered summer school? And then we wouldn't have anyone being able to feel left out or, not being given equal access because maybe their friend was a strong advocate for themselves and came to the site and said, hey, please, can I have this summer school, but another student wasn't. So I think for equity, it's good to set that in writing. Okay. That's my idea. It's not necessarily direction, but we'll go to public. So if any member of the public would like to raise their digital hand, or member of the public in person who wants to come up to the podium, which I think is happening. Yes. Okay.
I was thinking if we had a butterfly carpet, I wouldn't be so nervous every time I came up here and we all sat together on the floor. But I did want to say that I did have 5 kindergartners last year who attended the summer school program. And one thing that I truly appreciated was that some parents did not make decisions until the very last minute of that. And Linda and the team took them in graciously up to the very last minute. So I just want to make sure that that's always open because like I shared, parents don't make their decisions until they're like, okay, let's do this. So if we could keep that option open as well. So thank you.
I do believe that would be a staff decision. So thank you so much for your comment. And Lewis, we have someone, Erica's iPhone SE. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you. And I actually taught kindergarten at summer school. And I just want to concur. I believe I mentioned last spring. I just want to piggyback off of what Linda was saying. It's really nice to be able to sit down with our parents at those spring conferences to be able to hand them the invitations to summer school. Because while some may wait till the last minute to to commit because their last minute travel plans changed. As a working mom, I know my boys' schedule for summer is scheduled by March. So it's nice to let them know that they have a June option if that's what applies to them, because they qualify and they meet those qualifications set out by staff. So I just want to piggyback on, as somebody who has taught summer school before the pay increase and after, regardless of how we do it, the earlier the better, because that way everybody knows. And I think that just needs to be said. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez. Thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to comment? We don't have anyone raising their digital hand, and I don't see anyone else making their way up to the podium. Thank you all for your comments on that item. Is it all right with the board if we move on to the last item, which is future agenda items? Okay, I'm seeing everyone say yes to that. Thank you. It's 8:17. So future agenda items, Mr. Jorn, anything?
No, we have no changes here and nothing to add. So at the pleasure of the board, if there's anything the board has.
Okay, student trustee DiMaggio, anything to add?
Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dr. Hazen.
I've got a few.
You do have a few.
I
Okay, I
know,
wasn't sure if
been
thumbs
quiet
up.
on this for a while, but a few I'd like to bring up. One is, I wanted to make sure, I didn't see it explicitly on the calendar, but I think it's baked in that we have an opportunity, not necessarily as a special meeting, but an item to focus on our board self-evaluation. What we feel is working and not, with an opportunity for the public to be present. It's really impressive when we work as a board and accomplish things as a board as a whole. So I'd love to be able to do that moving forward. So just to put a pin in that. Another one, I saw the business contract fingerprinting section on there for future agenda item. Would love to be responsive a bit to the comments made tonight, just to make sure we're doing everything we can to streamline the process and not turn away volunteers. Then the third item is wanted to propose an idea of common calendaring with nearby districts to explore aligning breaks and childcare options. I know this is a very complex process, but I do know some people that, whether they might teach across districts or have a kid in one district and then teach in a different district, they don't get the same breaks and have to find childcare options. For example, I think it was Carmel Youth Center closed at the last minute, leaving a lot of their kids stranded for their breaks. And if there was alignment, there'd be more options for our kids to have childcare. So those are my three.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you so much. Clerk McNary.
I have one item. And it's information I got from the county of Santa Cruz, and the item is a comprehensive school safety plan for our LGBTQ plus students. It's not new. It's called the Safe Schools Project. And I would like to see us have a discussion. There are policies and documentation and learning opportunities and ways to measure progress related to this part of our student population. So I would be happy to pass that information along to Mr. Jorn, and hopefully we can see it on a future meeting.
Thank you. I have two. I'd like to add getting information about a reporting system for families who would like to report racist or biased incidents on campuses. And my other one is to have a clear, effective protocol developed for addressing racist incidents that might be in the form of a contractor who does those services or otherwise. I'd like to see those two items added. Trustee Otmar?
I have nothing to add to future agenda items tonight, but probably coming up soon. Can I ask a question about your future agenda item?
Yeah, sure.
When it comes to a reporting system, would you be open to adding bullying to that just in general? Because I know that bullying can happen for a number of reasons, including it can be racially fueled. But I think it's something that could also be inclusive to other kids that might be experiencing just harassment in general in school.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Trustee Brian Swanson.
I love your idea, trustee Otmar. I think that's great to expand that. I don't have anything additional, but I do I'd love the idea as well of common calendaring, because I just can't imagine how difficult that is I can't imagine how hard it would be to do that. So, and then with the fingerprinting, I don't know if what we are looking at as an agenda item is really encompassing what we heard about tonight, but when we get to it, I would like to for it to include that. I think that would be great, and I would love to get to it sooner than later, because it sounds like it's impacting in a very real way right now. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And all these ideas will kind of get filtered through whether or not their will be referred out to staff recommendation, et cetera. Mr. Jorn, do you want, because you know how if someone requests an agenda item and then you follow up with them. So do you want, how do you want to document who requested who and how to follow up with them?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up with each trustee individually related to the agenda for future agenda item requested. Clearly, some of these are like full board agenda items that need to be discussed. Self-evaluation, the calendaring committee related to the other district calendaring, those are definitely board discussion items.
Okay.
But I'm looking here, more or less the rest are staff. So I can follow up independent of this meeting with each member of the board and have a discussion, and then we can bring it forward to our agenda meetings.
Okay, wonderful. That's wonderful. Let's go out, see if there's any public comment, any member of the public wishing to have their future agenda item idea reviewed. It won't necessarily guarantee that it'll get on the agenda, but it'll be looked at, and a variety of things may happen to it, like getting referred to staff, et cetera. Any member of the public wishing to submit an idea? And also, please remember, there's an online form if you would like to do so. It's on the board's webpage, on the PGUSD.org webpage. It's just like, it's really close up to the top if you scroll down a little bit. So with that, trustees, anything else? I'm seeing shaking heads. No. Okay. Thank you so much. And with that, we will adjourn, unless Mr. Jordan, do you have anything else?
Nothing more.
You do not. Okay. We will adjourn. It's 8:24. Do you want to hit the gavel? Boom. Okay. Thank you.